I'm going to talk about some different materials for providing guidance for readers in choosing books, both generated by the teachers, by me, and also generated by the students. So different kinds of peer support. I'd like to talk a little bit about the background of our program first and the library resources that we have available. Um, in books, although of course we've been using X reading for several years now. And I'm working on transferring some of the materials that we already have so that they're viable for X reading, but that takes some time and I haven't done it yet. Okay, so Kyoto Gaidai has had in place for more than 10 years now a compulsory extensive reading program. So all of the English major, which, sorry, my numbers are from 2023, but no big changes in any of the numbers. About 700 students, 21 teachers, 40 classes of English majors in their first and second years, and then non-English majors who are studying various other languages as a major, but they continue to have compulsory English classes. So they also are subject to compulsory extensive reading in English. And the junior college, Tandai, also does extensive reading. Everyone has a minimum word count, word goal for in English, depending on their level and their year and their major. There's some other there's another school at Kyoto Gaidai, which is Global Tourism and Global Studies, and they also have extensive reading. And very recently, the French department has had an extensive reading program in French, and the Spanish department as well. And some of the other foreign language departments are working on starting their own program in those languages, so not in English. And my presentation is about the English program. We have a library, which is, I guess, separate from the main library. It's been moved around a couple of times, but right now it's housed in a quite a spacious location. And we have a good collection of extensive reading books, over 22,000 books, 3,000 titles, approximately seven titles, so 7 books per title. Many books we have 20 or 30 copies, even if they're lower level reading, because the students have to read so many more books to make their word count. We have graded readers, leveled readers, and we also have various children's books in that collection. And that library is open at least 8 hours a day. It's staffed usually by student assistants. But since it reopened after the pandemic over about a year and a half ago, it's not as heavily used because most of the reading is done on X reading. And I think everyone here is probably familiar with the kinds of books that we have. Graded readers, sometimes written for the extensive reading program, sometimes adapted from literature. We have Usborne books. We have a lot of children's books, Amelia Bedelia, Curious George, Berenstain Bears, etc. And from 2020, our program, because of the pandemic related shutdown, our program switched to X reading. I'm sure Paul is here somewhere. Yes, I can see you. Switched to X reading. So, and of course, a lot of advantages to X reading. Very convenient. I'm sure many of us read on digital devices ourselves. and for the students, they can access those books anywhere, anytime. And there's also an audio component. Um, cheating is also is also easy, unfortunately. Not that that's exclusive to the digital platform. And especially for researchers, but for teachers as well, there's a lot of ways to collect data in the digital platform that is harder in the physical with the physical books. The books are leveled, and so the books are organized within the library according to levels and then according to the publishers in a system that the library, I guess, developed. And I'm not 100% sure how it works. I have to scan for the color of the publishers when I'm looking for a book. M-Reader was the system that we started with. So the books in the physical library are leveled according to the M-Reader levels 1 through 9. There's also a 0, which is below 1. And X-Reading has more levels. There's lots of readability systems for measuring word count and difficulty, etc. But the books in our library are leveled according to the system used by M-Reader. But we have signs up now to match the M-Reader level and the X-Reading level. So students who want to read physical books can read in concert with their X-Reading levels as well. Okay, so then the main point of my presentation is talking about ways to provide guidance or choices or advertise different topics and books so that students can hopefully find something that is interesting and engaging, enjoyable for them. Not everyone enjoys reading, but at least if you find books that you like, topics that you like, it's much more pleasurable. So that's kind of that's been my role in the program. That's how I got roped into it, actually. One of my colleagues said, my students don't know what to read. And I said, I'll make some bibliographies. So I started doing that around 2015 or 2016. I don't remember. And so I made about 50 bibliographies by subject. For example, African Americans, classic books for girls, ghost stories, etc. And let's see. Oh, okay. In case anyone's interested in doing that for their own collection, I started with just choosing a theme from my head. And next I searched our library catalog to see what books we had related to that topic. I had a giant Excel list, I think, of all the extensive reading books, but I also used the library catalog. So I searched the collection, and then at that time I checked the M-Reader list to make sure all of those books had quizzes. And that's what I'd like to do in the future, is the same thing with X-Reading. Haven't gotten to it yet, but I'm hoping later this year I'm going to work on that. And then just make it attractive, write a little introduction, include the publisher information. In our physical library, you really need the publisher information to find the book. But if you have your own smaller collection in your classroom or a more private collection, I think that would be easier. And then just lay out the pamphlet and put in a title and put in some graphics. And I have a little note on the side about searching. So for example, one topic is animals. I just started with keywords like animal, pet, dog, cat, elephant. And then I looked for books that I know exist just from memory or, internet searching. So The Yearling or Black Beauty. You wouldn't know from the title that that book is about a horse, but if you have ever seen the movie or read the book, then you might remember it. But of course, in modern times, you can just look for, animal books for young readers and find lists on the internet. And then again, search the catalog. All of that is very tedious. And if you have research money, of course, you can hire someone to do some of that. And this is what my bibliographies looked like when they were printed, on colored paper, on cardstock, a little bit heavier. And I tried to have a variety of colors and some different shapes, large size, which is full page, and small size, which is half page, A4. I also have some that are on B5. Depends on how many books I found, and I would size them accordingly. And then I would just run them off double-sided, and fold them in half when they're done. So there's a little front cover. It's a little booklet, little front cover and a back cover, and then interior. And those were distributed in class. Some teachers would take them to class, and they were also available in the physical library. There was a display rack that would have some of them there. This is another example of running the materials, the half sheet. So the front or the what should I say? The outside and the inside are just reversed on the top and on the bottom. You just run it double-sided and then cut it down the middle, and you have a half-size bibliography. You fold it in half, and it's the exact same thing. And here's an example of the display. Maybe you can see the little green thing is the same as this bibliography here on the screen. Just one more. So this is the long way, and another display with the bibliography about space and the moon. So until the end of 2019, those bibliographies and the displays were available in the physical library. And then I'd also like to talk a little bit about the library displays. Of course, everything's done with the cooperation of the library staff and the head of the library. It all has to be negotiated, which fortunately that has never been my job. But the library staff was very cooperative. They would have student assistants find the books for us, and then I or one of my colleagues would go in and set up the display. And we would change it every month, have as well as some books. We would have the bibliography and some kind of poster. And then in the case of Christmas or Halloween, we would often have some decorations. I have one very small display here that says library display fantasy novels. And that was for more advanced readers in the 3rd or 4th year who were continuing with extensive reading, but no longer being tracked in a compulsory program, just through the teacher or on their own. So we also set up some smaller displays for them. Here's Halloween. So we have some decorations. There's a little jack-o'-lantern there. I think I have a giant Frankenstein hand that I used to put out as well. And some bibliographies, ghost stories, witch stories, famous characters like Dracula and Frankenstein, and then the books out on the table. Okay, so then my colleagues who teach extensive reading, which I do not, my colleagues who teach extensive reading then wanted to have a different kind of reading list, because the bibliographies that I originally made included books in the collection on all different levels. And they wanted to have the books leveled because most students are reading on a particular level. So that they felt that was more useful for the classroom. So I started working on that in 2019. Um, and I don't want to say it was all wasted, but anyway, but I worked on that in 2019, making a different kind of list, um, so that could be used in the classroom um, more directly because it would be on the same level. Um, a little bit of an aside, we also produced a lot of badges. They're called in Japanese English. I would say pin, I believe, hard for me to remember, or button. But little metal discs that you can have a little safety pin and put on your clothes. And we've had those available for the program for word count goals. And so the teachers who wanted to do that could bring those to class and distribute those to students when they met their goals. So the plan was to have a badge that would be keyed to different accomplishments from these kinds of reading lists. So one kind is by series, and I have three here: Henry and Mudge, Curious George, and Junie B. Jones. So, and I've probably 20 or 25 series of book lists. So the same process as making the bibliographies, although of course I was able to cannibalize a lot of things, but checking our holdings and then checking that there was an M-Reader quiz available for those books. Another project is by author. Now, in the case of all of these literary classics, they're not in copyright, so different publishers, of course, produce books. So what we decided to do with that was set a word count goal. For example, Alexander Dumas read 30,000 words, and you would have a choice of Penguin, Macmillan, Oxford, Hindley, or Usborne for the Three Musketeers. And you could combine, kind of mix and match those books to hit that 30,000 words, maybe consulting with your teacher if you were in a class with a teacher who was actively cultivating the extensive reading. And of course, the teacher could change the word count goal. That would be fine. Um, And then one more type, which is by theme. And I have on the screen high level, which is horror stories, and another fairly high level, the world's most translated books, and also slavery. And I think I have 25 or so themes, and many of them have multiple levels, just depending on what I can come up with, what we have in the collection. Now, sometimes for the reading lists, the teachers who were working in the classroom all agreed that it's okay to have books that are up or down one level. So sometimes, for example, the horror books, actually about half of them are level 6, a little bit more than half on level 7, and then one on level 8. So depending on the ambition and skill of the reader, they can level up or level down a little bit. Because you can't always find everything on the same level. So now, unfortunately, the pandemic came along and we were not able to really move those into the classroom because the physical library was closed for 2 years. And meanwhile, we had transitioned to X reading. And I'm pretty sure we'll stay there. So again, what I'd like to do is the same thing, but check the X reading holdings. and work on making the same thing for X reading. Then when the students completed a task, our plan was to give them the badge. And I have some prototypes here on this little T-shirt, but we stopped production because we weren't able to bring that into the classroom at that time. I have one more idea. I just stuck this slide in there, although I've never actually used it, and that's creating a bingo. So some kind of grid 3x3, 4x4, 5x5, either with a particular theme. Over on the right side, I have characters, so many low-level books. And the idea being maybe if you read one of each, then maybe you'll be charmed or intrigued and, want to go ahead and read all the Amelia Bedelias or all the Little Witches or whatever. The other, sorry?
Rebecca, sorry to break in. You've got about 5 minutes, but
oh, okay, I'll speed up. Thank you. No,
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and then the other thing that I've worked on, as I said, I don't teach the extensive reading that's taught entirely by Japanese people at my university, except for in the GS department, I think. So, however, in my classes, and some other people as well, where we're teaching communication, presentation, or academic writing, we've tried to bring the students into the process of reviewing and referring others to books with those three things. And student feedback, has a different impact than the teacher. Hopefully those activities, of course, I'm sure they're tedious for the students too, but hopefully they're, empowering, they're more active and more engaging if the students are able to recycle that extensive reading in other classes. This is my form that I use. So these are all my material, so they're going to be similar. So I have a form for a book talk where I ask the students various details, and I give them a sample, which is The Prisoner of Zenda, available in several editions, another out of copyright book. And this is a second assignment, which is book review. So a written assignment. I also used Prisoner of Zenda. I put a couple of recent examples that come from a writing class. Those were done in class, on paper. So I don't think there was much AI interference. I've left in mistakes. So the students wrote their own book reviews, and then they would pass those around to other students in the class. And then finally, a slideshow for a presentation class, but I won't have time to show you, but just where they're assigned to make the presentation. And I usually do those in a book talk and a slideshow in a round robin. So they just present to a small group or a partner one at a time. And I'll stop there then if anyone has any questions.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Rebecca. Lots of great ideas, badges and everything. Really cool. Does anybody have any questions for Rebecca? We have time for a couple. Go ahead, Paul.
Well, more of a comment, just really very interesting. I was a little bit distracted, so I didn't get to see everything you talked about. But I heard you mention that you created this initially for the physical books, and then because of the pandemic and switched to X reading. But if you want to collaborate and find ways that this could be integrated into X reading, please let me know, and I'll see if we can support you and maybe work on things together, so it could be something other schools could take advantage of as well.
Of course. Thank you very much. Thank you, Paul. Thank you. If I make anything, I'll be sure to share it.
Yeah, and I can also give you a spreadsheet with all the a list of all the books and
can you
data about them.
Oh, that would be very efficient. All right, I'll be in touch. Thanks.
Fantastic. Oh, thank you, Paul. Thank you. Any other questions or comments or anything before we move on? Somebody's raised
I
their
have
hand.
one.
Pat, go ahead.
Hi there, Rebecca. Actually, I've met you before.
Oh, you have? Okay.
Yeah, in Tokyo.
In
When you,
Tokyo. Oh, sure. Yeah,
yeah,
sure.
at the Extensive Reading World Congress. But
Right.
seeing your bibliographies again, I was thinking this could also be a good way to get that kind of information outside of the library too. Because it's really hard to
Right.
take the books outside of the library. But say if you
Right.
have kind of an independent learning center or some kind of like on-campus cafe, it might be easy to put a kind of display with those there, kind of
Yes,
leading
that's a good
students to the
idea.
library.
Oh, yeah, that's
So
a good
I
idea.
I want to get started doing this. I think maybe some of my seminar students or some of my higher level English students might be interested in making bibliographies. So thank you very much for the inspiration.
Good idea. It's an excellent in-class project. It's a lot of tedious detail work for accuracy. So, but that's good practice for the students. So, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.